Today on Tyria Talk, I share my thoughts about limited time content, and I simply won't wear tights I don't look good in. Let's get to it. Howdy folks, and welcome back to another episode of Tyria Talk. My name is Richie, aka Otter, and this show is all about Guild Wars 2. Today is episode number 53, and today I'm going to be discussing limited time content. Now, the reason why I'm discussing this is because we've been seeing limited time content in Guild Wars 2, so that kind of makes sense. Let's talk about it. Alright, what do I mean exactly? Well, people who played Guild Wars 2 in April had the privilege of playing through the Super Adventure box, which was kind of an April Fool's joke, but actually had a lot of in-game content and potential. It was a platforming kind of retro style, mini game kind of game within a game, and it was very popular and people seem to enjoy it a lot. There's videos on my YouTube channel if you want to see what we're talking about, in case you missed it. But it was only there for the month of April. Now they said they're going to bring it back at some point with new worlds and new weapon skins to go after and stuff. But that's sometime in the future. But right now the boards that we were playing with all throughout April are gone. And the end of April, we just got the patch last week, which introduced the Molten Weapon Facility dungeon, this content is only going to be live until May 12th, 2013. So it was only about like a 2-week period that this dungeon is going to be available, and then it goes away. It is the conclusion of the or the finale of the Flame and Frost living story arc that we've been experiencing for the past several months, and so it makes sense for the story that I guess it goes away at the end of this. Now, so we've seen some recent content go into Guild Wars 2 that is not going to be available long term. It's not going to be persist in the game. And what's interesting about that is, like, we've seen this before in other games, but also in Guild Wars 2. The Halloween stuff, right? The Clock Tower and the Mad King dungeon where you get to kill the Mad King. That was only there for a few weeks during the October patch. And the Winter's Day stuff, similar. There's a jumping puzzle and the choir bell mini game, and the snowball fights and stuff. That all kind of left the game when the December patch left. Now, those kind of things I think we all expected. Those are tied to holidays. Those are kind of like themed around, different kind of holidays. So I think everyone's expectations were that they're going to go away, and then, next year, 2013's holidays, they'll come back. And they might be modified a little bit, and they might add some things to it or change some things, but that content will come back. The question is, will stuff like this living story dungeon, will this ever come back in another form, or is this just like a moment in Guild Wars 2 history where you fight this dungeon and only the players that were there for it will ever see it, and it just goes away? It becomes kind of a legend or something like that. So that's really the question. Like the Karka event. Right, this was the November patch when they introduced the South Sun Cove zone. That ancient Karka battle, that was like a 3-hour event, and it happened once, and it will never happen again as far as we know, right? And the rewards that people got from that, people that got the legendary precursors out of that. I didn't get that. I got an exotic dagger, which warriors can't use. Anyway, I'm not bitter or anything, and I don't cling to the past. I kind of, fresh mind, look forward. So the question is, how do you feel about this short-term content? Does it make it special, right? Because hey, I participated in the Molten Weapon Facility Living Story Dungeon, which was only available for 2 weeks, and I got these cool glove skins, or you might get one of those rare jetpacks or anything like that, and that's it. Then the thing is closed. Or is it kind of disappointing that it's not going to be around? Like, oh, I really like that dungeon, and I played that a couple months ago, and it's a shame it's no longer in the game because I'd like to run that again right now. So I can see both sides of the coin. There's advantages and disadvantages to content that sticks around. But I just wanted to kind of talk about like what's going on here. Now, I definitely think part of the strategy for ArenaNet is, hey, we don't have a subscription fee for our game, right? And we don't have an end game like a traditional MMO where there's a heavy gear grind and kind of these artificial mechanisms that keep you wanting to play, right? I can not play Guild Wars for 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and go back to it and not feel like I've fallen behind, right? And that's the draw of a lot of games where there's a standard gear progression is oh, I got to keep playing every week to keep up with my friends and my guild mates so I can continue to tackle the next raid or the next dungeon or whatnot. Same thing on the PvP side. I gotta I want to work on my rating so I can continue to get new gear so I can remain competitive. They don't have that in Guild Wars 2. So how do they get people to come back to the game, and how do they continue to make money in the game when there's no subscription fee and there's not that they don't have that kind of gear progression system? And I think this limited time content is part of the strategy, right? When Molten Weapon Facility came out last week, it was the same time that Neverwinter, a brand new MMO that I'm interested in, they went into open beta. And it's so funny, like that game that came out, and I could have been leveling my character, but instead, like I think for 2 or 3 nights in a row, I logged into Guild Wars 2 to check out this new dungeon. And I went and made videos about it and stuff like that, but I also ran it a few times. So it worked on me. The strategy worked on me. Here's a new game, and instead I chose to log in and check out this new dungeon because I know it's going away soon. Now, if they just put in this new dungeon and this dungeon was just going to be there forever, right? I can just do this anytime. Well, you know what? Last week I probably would have been playing a lot more Neverwinter, and I just would have been checking out this new dungeon whenever I kind of got around to it. So this is definitely part of their strategy, and it works on some players. I know I talked to Bree over at Massively a little bit through comments on an article. This doesn't work for everybody. Some people are totally turned off by this. Well, if that's only going to be out a few weeks, well, I don't have the time to do it. I'm not going to make time to kind of do it. I guess this content's not for me. So it can work the opposite. It should be interesting to to figure out how many players it actually works for. My guess is it works for more players than it doesn't. Otherwise, it's a terrible strategy. But I think this is part of ArenaNet's overall plan, is to have items that are only available on the gem store for a limited amount of time, to get people to buy it now, to get people to log into the game now. They'll do things like these one-time events or these short term things. Now, I also think that it does kind of make things a little bit special, right? If you have these molten gloves, or you got some reward from something that's a limited time, it's cool to kind of show it off later. And I think too often some MMOs, they just allow everyone to have everything, and they just it kind of makes things not special anymore, right? When they start to release items that were previously only available for a limited time, and then they kind of make it available to everyone, it kind of cheapens that experience. So I do like the kind of trophy, or that, like, I got a title that you can only get for playing at a certain moment. So I do think that there are some things that are beneficial about having kind of a short-term feel to it. But at the same token, I am sad that I can't play Super Adventure Box right now. And then, this dungeon that's out there right now, it's probably one of the more fun dungeon experiences I've had in Guild Wars 2. A lot of the dungeon is quite good, and it's going to be sad that they put all these resources and effort to the art and to the tactics of these fights and designing this, and that kind of goes away. Now, I do know that ArenaNet has stated on the forums that they're not always only going to do limited time content. That's not their focus. They're going to mix it up. Some things will stick around, some things won't, and I think that's smart. They also didn't, they didn't confirm this, but they didn't deny that, hey, with the idea of the fractals, right, they kind of have this open forum for bringing things back, because it's kind of like a slice of life type thing, right? Part of the reason why this living story dungeon's going away is because it wouldn't be much of a living story if it just stuck around forever, right? It's got to evolve. Things have to change in the world. You got to see things actually evolving in the world to kind of, to get that level of immersion that they're going for with the story. But having the Fractal of the Mist be this kind of like, it's kind of like the holodeck in a Star Trek, right? That you can go, you can basically do anything with it, because it kind of doesn't exist you know, it exists, but it exists in the mists, and the mists can kind of explain a lot of things that are unexplainable. So you can have this moment of time captured in the fractals. So they have alluded to maybe they can bring something into the mists and put it into a fractal form so players can still enjoy the content, but it still makes sense in the story of the world. So they could bring the Molten Weapon Facility dungeon as a slice of the fractals that players can experience and stuff like that. So we'll have to see how this whole plays out. So what do you think about short-term content or limited time content? Let me know in the comments below. Does it frustrate you? Does it make you want to play the game more? Does it make it more special for you, or do you avoid it completely? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and favorite this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can be notified when future videos are released. I appreciate every one of my subscribers. Yes, even you sitting over there with the bag of Cheetos and the funny looking hat. Yeah, you are one of my favorites, in fact. So I hope everybody has... Oh, you can also contact me on Twitter and Google Plus and Facebook and Twitch. I'll put all that information on the screen. And I hope everybody has a fantastic day, and take care. It's kind of dark in here. Let there be light! Ugh. Isn't exactly what I had in mind. What the...